All right. Well, let's get started by first. Well, thank you for coming all the way
Yeah.
from San Diego, man.
Yeah, of
Appreciate
course.
it. Usually I just have the guests introduce themselves, so by all means, go ahead.
Okay. My name's Sonny Olivera. I am a DJ and producer from San Diego, California. And yeah, happy to be here.
Nice. Thank you, man. And are you San Diego born and raised?
I'm not. I grew up in Southern California. So I grew up in a town called Rancho Cucamonga.
Okay.
It's about an hour east of LA, about 2 hours north of San Diego. And I ended up going to school at San Diego State for college. So that was back in 2008. And ever since then, I've been in San Diego. So I've been there 15 years, and that's where I call home now.
Okay. So let's maybe start like early childhood. And I mean, has music ever been heavily involved in your life?
Music's always been around. My dad was the guy who wouldn't let you touch the dial in the car. We always had to listen to what he wanted to listen to, and that was a lot of classic rock. So heavy influences of 60s, 70s, 80s singer-songwriter. I think, people are calling it yacht rock now, and
Rock?
have been calling it yacht rock for a while. I was actually kind of clueless about it. I just watched a documentary about this, but yeah, I mean, I'd call it classic rock, dad jams, whatever. But that's what my playlist is called on my phone. I called it Dad Jams, and it's great music for after producing, because after my brain has been
All those kicks.
I just need something calming and something that I can just like be a fan of and not like trying to dissect.
Yeah, I think that's the crux of being a producer. You just dissect everything.
Oh, it's terrible.
Yeah.
It's terrible. Like whatever idea I'm working on, it just gets stuck in my head. So there's certain things I like to listen to kind of shut that part of my brain off.
Okay. And then is there any notable bands you would say kind of is a big?
Oh yeah. I mean, Steely Dan for sure.
Okay.
The Eagles, Dire Straits, The Cars, Bob Seger, the Beach Boys. Mm-hmm. There's so many good ones.
Yeah.
That was such a great era of music.
Love that. Okay. And then at least growing up, did you ever get involved? Because a lot of producers I've always met, you get kind of two, some that have never been in a band or music or anything and just jump into producing. And then there's some who are could be classically trained or joined band in high school and then get into producing.
I would say I'm somewhere in the middle. I took guitar lessons growing up. That faded away. And then that was probably when I was 15. And then when I was 24, I decided to pick up piano. Okay. And I took piano for about 3-4 years and became mildly proficient. But, life got in the way and I let that fall off. Yeah. And then I decided to take drum lessons. And this was just all out of pure interest. It wasn't I think deep down in my mind, I knew I always wanted to make beats.
Yeah.
I've always been actuated by beats. And so, but I was kind of trying to learn the ABCs of how to do it. So taking a little guitar, taking a little piano, taking a little drums. And for the time from when I took drums to the time I started producing was probably another 4 years. But at least in that time frame, I was able to realize that producing is where I want to go.
Yeah.
And I've always just had a very detailed ear when listening.
Would you say what the producing part, it was the freedom to make whatever you want, you're not really constrained, that kind of caught your attention and interest?
Producing for me was the chance to make house music.
Okay.
I have been a house head. Well, I found electronic music in high school and actually started more with Justice and that kind of heavy rock influenced electronic sound.
It's that hybrid between the two.
Yeah. That's when the first time I heard crazy electronic sounds.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is this? This is so cool. But then I remember senior year of high school, I heard Ghost and Stuff for the first time. And that was the first time I had heard something that was a 4 on the floor kick, hat clap, just that driving
almost
beat.
Classic house. Yeah.
And that energy that brings is just has encapsulated me till now and will keep going. So, and I've been to many shows I've gone to Coachella 9 times.
Oh wow.
And just have parked myself in the Sahara tent so many times and just I've heard so many fucking kick drums, and I think just over time I've been able to dissect like what a song is made of. And so when you ask like producing, I was like, well, this is my chance to see if I'm right, you know?
Yeah.
So that's
So,
kind of a
are you
roundabout way
like
to
an
get there.
engineer or something,
No.
or is it? I'm
No.
just curious to know how your mind works. Yeah.
I don't know. No, dude, my entire, I went to school for business. I worked at Enterprise Rent-A-Car.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to get the hell out of there. So I got a job selling asphalt. And I didn't know shit about construction. And now I've been in construction 10 years. I don't have that job, but
Yeah.
I went from selling asphalt to now I'm working at a company that I used to sell to. Anyways, my entire time post college has been in sales. So I feel very comfortable talking to people and promoting myself and that sort of end, which actually is translated really well to like becoming an artist and putting myself out there on social media, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely something I want to talk to you about later on towards the end, because I feel like that is a big topic these days about like marketing yourself that no one knows how to do. But just to kind of keep track, so you in high school, you started getting a little bit of exposure to Justice and other electronic, beats. And so that sparked your interest. By that time, did you even know what a rave was? Did you know?
No, I didn't. I went to my first rave was EDC 2010 at
That's a big rave, but
at the Coliseum. The last time I was at the Coliseum, and like prior to that in college, like we were listening to the music, but I had never I'd never gone to a rave, and that show up there, and I was like, oh my god, like this exists? Like what the fuck is this? And I just thought it was so cool, and since then went to a bunch of raves, but I would say I actually lean more towards festivals.
Okay.
And like I've mentioned, I've been to Coachella a bunch. And it's been very formative for me, and is my pie in the sky goal is to play there and headline one of those tents.
Is it the reason you kind of lean towards, because like I feel like there's always that EDC and then there's the Coachella group, two different kind of communities in there. Is it the diversity in music? Because you said you have a lot of background in more like classic rock and stuff like that, so you kind of have a wider taste palette with music.
Exactly. I love raving and I love rave culture.
Yeah.
But I enjoy festivals because I do like to step away and go experience another sound. Mm-hmm. So when I come back, it's refreshing again.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
So I think it's good to have balance.
Okay. So at least with your first EDC event, I'm curious to know how that kind of led up. Was it like, did a friend say, hey, let's go check this rave out? And you were like, I have no idea what this is. Let's
Pretty
go.
much. Yeah. I mean, I was 20 years old. I was in college, and a bunch of 20-year-old kids, idiots, were like, let's all hop in a car and go to this thing, and there was like, I'd watched a YouTube video, and I was like, all right, let's fucking do this. So I remember sitting in the Coliseum watching Deadmau5 play, hearing some chords, and like, it was just,
whoa, this getting engulfed in it.
Yeah, you're inside of it. Like,
back then when EDC was at the Coliseum, it was only a one stage or a two stage.
They had a bunch of stages. There was a stage on the football field, and that was the main stage. And like, you came in down the stairs, and they had it at one end zone. But there was like smaller side stages, like around the parking lot areas.
Oh, okay. And then you did was it 3 days or 2 days?
I only went one night. I think it might have been a 2-night thing, but I just remember going for one night.
Okay. Yeah. And how was your first Coachella experience? Because like it sounds like you have a special place for Coachella in your heart.
I didn't leave the Sahara tent. I was in the Sahara tent for 3 days and saw Avicii play in the Big Skull.
Oh, wow.
Saw so many great artists.
But,
I didn't leave the Sahara tent. And then the next year I went and was doing the same thing. And my friend was like, no, we have to go see this band called Phoenix. And I was like, I've heard of Phoenix. I knew like their 11901 song. And I went, and that was the first time I got pulled out of there. And I was like, oh, like a rock band can be like just as fun as a DJ set.
Yeah.
And so since then I've been like, I think that's kind of influenced me to try to bring in like rock influences into
your productions,
into my productions and my sound.
Oh, okay. We'll definitely get about your productions as well, because like it's always like a common trend. Like I have friends who come from like heavy metal backgrounds and they incorporate that into their music. So it's always interesting sound, like how people take their influences from their early lives into their production. Yeah. And you really see that too, which is always a fun, unique taste to producing.
Yeah. I mean, that's what makes, any artist special is their own experiences and what I think makes people be pulled to them, or there's like that sort of gravitational pull.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you kind of resonate with this, but like, I feel like there's with the whole social media boom and like, everything's on there, people tend to want to sound like someone else.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think what you touched up is in a very key point that like taking influences from your own unique history really can make or break your sound.
I think it's easy to fall into trends because it's what you see and it's what you're surrounded by. But to create your own sound is to like look inward and see what makes you, and then how to push that back outward.
Exactly. And at least, so for your early music career, when you started producing, because you said what, 3 years?
Yeah.
3 years you only started producing. To me, honestly, for 3 years in, you sound like you have a very strong self-identity and like what your sound is.
I do, and that's due to the 10 years of going to shows and knowing what I like.
Okay.
And so when it came time to making my own music, I knew pretty close like where to start.
I see.
And I've tried, I've tried things that maybe were a little harder hitting sounding or a little techno, like a little faster, rolling bass lines. But I've always known that I've wanted to do a mixture of organic instruments, of guitar samples, horn samples, and big fat bass lines and big fat drums. And like that combination is where I get the most excited.
So I'm always curious to know: did you DJ'd first?
Yeah.
Right. And then how long have you been DJing before you started producing?
I've been DJing since 2011. I started producing in 2021. So I DJ'd for 10 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And I remember prior to the show starting, you said you were mostly a bedroom DJ.
Yeah. I started off by downloading Virtual DJ onto my laptop, and I didn't even have a board. I would just click my way, on the screen. It was very basic. It was just like fader up on this side, fader up, and that's it. And then I went to Guitar Center and I bought the little mini controller, and I would just lock myself. That was so much fun. I remember, I would on Saturday nights, I'd just be home alone and I'd shut all the lights off and I would just be going to town on this little board. That ended up breaking or disappearing. But then I remember in 2016, I was able to get my hands on like a proper set of decks, and that was like the best investment I could have done, because since then I've, people would be like, oh dude, I'm having a birthday party, come bring them over. And so I'd like set up. And so I started getting myself out in front of people. Yeah. And that's just grown into where we are now.
So can you tell me do you remember the first event you ever did? Whether it's a birthday or...
Yeah, I would say the first time I ever DJ'd for for people that I didn't know, because it had always been friends. Yeah. And your friends are great, but your friends are going to always tell you did great. Yeah. They're going to tell you that your song is the best, and your song could be terrible, but hey, your song is sick. You could pull the power on all the music, and they're like, you did a great job out there. It's just like, that's how it is. So you do have to get that honest feedback. Yeah. And my friends threw a party on Halloween out in the desert. We did like a little desert renegade.
Oh, I love that.
And there was probably like 40 people out there, some friends, some not. Yeah. I was like so nervous. I took a screenshot of my set list and I put it as the wallpaper on my phone. So I was like, I practiced my set. Like I knew every second of my set, and it's like, at this point I do this, at this point I do that, I wasn't feeling it or in the mood. I was like so tense. Regimented. I was so tense, but it went over well. Everyone liked it. Yeah. And that was like the first boost of confidence. It's like, okay, you can do this. Yeah. I DJ'd an F45 class on a Saturday morning at 6 a.m.
Oh, like
it was cool. I was banging it out, but I couldn't tell if anyone was like having a good time or not, because they're too busy working out, and, doing jumping jacks and whatnot. My first time was the Desert Renegade, but since then I was doing Monday nights at a dive bar where guys there'd be like 3 people at the bar watching football, and I'm playing house tunes. It's just like, you just kind of get in where you can.
Yeah. Huh. And then at least, so, you're starting to DJ. you're starting to pick up events. Was this more like a solo thing? Like you were just go out and, hey, look, do you guys need a DJ? Do you guys need a DJ?
Yeah, I've always been entrepreneurial in that
Okay.
sense of I'll walk into a bar when they're opening up on a Wednesday afternoon and there's no one in there. Like, hey, can I talk to the manager? And I see you guys have DJs here. You know, how can I get involved?
Yeah.
And so I've always ringed my own bell. That was
Yeah.
someone told me that. It's like you always got to ring your bell. So
Okay.
I go in places and try to advocate for myself.
And at least where you're at now, do you feel like you've kind of found like a home or a community that you can find something consistently, or you still kind of
I would say now that I'm releasing music and being consistent on social media, I think people are starting to be drawn to what I'm putting out there, and so I am getting requests. And yeah, so things are starting to come back to me. I feel like I'm finding myself in the San Diego scene, and it's just really cool to meet people and grow and partner with new collectives and whatnot.
Yeah. At least in terms of you said you were part of a collective?
Yeah, so I'm a part of Angry Dog, which is a label in San Diego and a DJ artist collective. So we probably have like 30 DJs in San Diego. Okay. We have a label to release on. We throw parties. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's you got to find that community.
Yeah, and then are you purely just, because I know when it comes to collectives, there's the DJs, but sometimes they might cross function into maybe promotions or production. Do you have any hand in that, or are you mostly focused on playing?
For me personally, I'm just an artist and DJ in the collective. I'm not a part of it in running the promotive side.
Yeah.
But they release a lot of my music, which is nice. It's good to have an outlet that allows you to be consistent.
Yeah. So there's definitely start touching up at least on the production side now. By this point, you're already 10 years into playing.
Yeah.
You're already kind of building up the momentum. And you said something earlier before we started about how you kind of need to produce to make a name for yourself.
Totally.
Yeah.
There's a lot of DJs out there, and that's great. I think it's awesome that, the art form is spreading and people are interested in it. But if you really want to take yourself seriously in this and become someone that you see up on those big stages, you need to make your own music.
That's fair. Especially because I don't know how the competition is in San Diego. At least in LA, it's, there's a lot of people coming here wanting to play here. In San Diego, I've heard so far that it's still a new scene, more or less. It's still kind of up and coming.
I would say it was a new scene as of 2015. I would say we're getting 10 years into it's a proper scene. It's smaller than LA, but it's strong. There's nights you can find somewhere to DJ every night. There's a lot of really talented DJs. There's a lot of really talented producers. I would say it's similar to LA, just in a smaller scale, a much smaller scale.
Do you find that helpful to your career because it's less competitive, or do you find that if maybe it was on the scale of LA, it would actually be better?
I personally don't find any other DJs it's not a competition in my opinion. Yeah. There's enough opportunities to go around for everyone.
Yeah.
You can. It's solely up to you to put yourself out front by how hard you're working.
Okay.
I do like being in San Diego because San Diego is a house scene through and through, and I think it's in a smaller scene, there's only so many people who are kind of calling the shots. Yeah. And I don't know. It does seem, LA seems a little more difficult to navigate. I'd say that.
But would eventually you would like to start making a name out here, or do you
yes. Of course. Yeah. I would love. Yeah. You need a DJ? Book me. You want me to play some fun, funky tunes? I will come up to LA and do that. I did. I was hoping we could talk about when I got to open for Odd Mob.
Let's do it, dude. Oh, what? I did not. You didn't say anything about that.
I thought I told you that. Yeah, bro. I opened for Odd Mob at the Hollywood Palladium back in October.
Really?
Yeah, and so that was the first time I played in LA.
Okay, let's backtrack a little bit because I don't even know how that even led up to it. So you're in San Diego, and then what? Did someone find you, or
he made a post back in September, just saying how. He's when he was starting out, it was hard to figure out how to make it. You know, you need someone to pull you up, sort of thing. And so he did a contest where he's like, submit a mix, and you can maybe be my opener. And I had a mix. I was at work. I'm scrolling, working, whatever. I'm like, I got a mix ready to go, and I shot it to him, and I get a call. The show was on a Saturday. I get a call like the Wednesday prior, and it's a number with like a +61 area code, and I'm looking at it like, I'm like, this is spam, and I don't even answer it. And then,
Oh no.
and then I get a text from that number, and it says, "Hey man, this is Archie, Odd Mob's tour manager. You got a second to talk?" And I was like,
What?
"Yeah, I do." I was like, I'm like, "Yeah, please call me back. Like, I'm so sorry. I thought this was spam." And he calls me, and he's like, "Hey man, like, we really liked your mix. We looked into your music. We really liked your music. We like you and your vibe, and we'd like for you to open for Odd Mob at the Hollywood Palladium." And I immediately just went, "Oh my God, is that this Saturday?" And he's like, "Yeah, it's this Saturday." And I was flying to New Jersey to go to a friend's wedding that same weekend. And I was like, "I'm so sorry, man, but like, I'm going to be out of town." And he's like, "Oh, really? Like, you're like, you sure? Like, we don't want to have to go find someone else." And I ended up I'm like, "Yeah, like, I'm really sorry." I hung up the phone, and like every bone in my body was like, "What are you doing? Like, figure this out." So I called him back. It's like, "Hey, can I get like 10 minutes to figure this out?" And I run inside, and I'm talking to my wife, and she's like, the wedding was on Friday. We're just going to end our trip early and come home Saturday. And so that's what we ended up doing. But I kind of had a meltdown. I kind of had like a major meltdown. And this was when the hurricane was going through like Florida. And in my mind, the entire eastern seaboard would just be like shut down. You can't catch a flight. And so I'm just like freaking out. She's like, "There's a million flights home. We're going to get home." So we ended up making it home. We got like the first flight out of New Jersey, landed, slept a little, drove up to LA, and I got to play the show. And it was a dream come true for sure. Like I had a green room with my name on it. I'm chilling back there.
That's just a real moment, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I got to meet Archie, his tour manager. I got to meet his agent. I got to meet Odd Mob himself. And I was chilling in their back room. We're all just chit chatting, and they're telling me how much they like my music, and I was just like so honored and blown away. And and when I started playing, there was two people. Like, I mean, I was doors open, so two people walk in, but by the end there was probably like 300 people. And I got on the mic and introduced myself, and everyone was cheering. It was like, wow. It was super cool. Wow. Yeah, it was super, super cool.
It's crazy how life can change in like an instant like that.
Bro, it sure can. I feel blessed.
Honestly. And then I feel like this just lights a fire under your ass, and you just want to keep
for
going.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes, I just want to keep going, because I'm not at all where I want to be, but I can, as I look back, I can see the progress I'm making, and I just need to just keep doing
away at it.
Keep doing what I'm doing. Yeah.
Damn. So actually, let's talk a little, because you mentioned something earlier. You sent the mix to Odd Mob and his manager, but one thing I noticed is that you had a mix ready. Yeah. So I think this is good for a lot of people to know. Do you continuously put out mixes, or just record them on site?
I don't continuously put out mixes.
Yeah.
But I had been asked by other folks to make mixes, so I had a couple ready to go, and the one that I sent them was really reflective of where I'm at, and also made a pretty good opening set for someone like Odd Mob. And he told me, he's like, "You wouldn't be surprised how many people sent me like, headlining, banging tech house sets." And he's like, "I'm looking for an opener." And I'm playing like 123, 124, like more groovy, funky stuff, which is a great way to like welcome people into the room. And so I think it was just a good match of my sound and how he saw the night going, because this is his headline sold out Hollywood Palladium show. He has a vision for how he wants the music to ramp up.
Yeah.
So I think it was a good fit. I think I was just like prepared and ready. When I saw the post, I was like, well, I had this mix, and there's that saying where it's like luck is preparation and opportunity combined, or something to that effect. So I feel like that's a good example of that.
And did they ever like listen when they say they liked your music? Was it the music you selected for that mix, or was it did they look through your social media?
He
and your
specifically
discography?
said "Do What You Love" is great, and "Do What You
Okay.
Love" is a song that I just recently put out, and it's with my boy Vinny Tunes, and it's original vocals and obviously production, and it's just a really feel good piano house song.
Okay.
So check it out.
No, definitely. I'll make sure to put it on the podcast. So what would you say your sound is? Like if you were to explain to me like this is what you would experience listening to my music.
If you're gonna come to my set, you're gonna have a good time. It's gonna be fun. Like electronic music and house music has always been about like having fun.
Yeah.
So I like brighter sounds, funkier sounds, kind of quirky sounds. Yeah, I guess in talking about my music, I'm trying to produce that. A big influence of me is a guy called Me and My Toothbrush. And he does a great job of blending, electronic bass lines and house drums, but we'll use guitar samples and horn samples. And I just really like how those two things kind of mesh together. I think it creates a good contrast. So I'm trying to make stuff that is fun and bright and refreshing and fun.
I love that.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to know, like, at least we talked about your classic rock background, but what would you say are some like notable influences in the house scene that, inspire you?
For sure.
Yeah.
Dead Mouse to start.
Yeah.
So me as a producer, I tend to make things that are pretty, or I tend to make things that are like fun and funky. And so Dead Mouse to me makes some of the most beautiful music I've heard, like Strobe, The Veldt, Brazil. I could go on, but he melodically can make something that's like very beautiful in the soundscape. On the other side of things, like things that are more like harder hitting, edgier, funkier, Purple Disco Machine for sure.
Yeah.
A-Track, Deeper Purpose, Me and My Toothbrush, just like, you have to check these guys out. But
definitely. Yeah, a lot of the names
I'm trying to make like fun, funky mixed with tech house a little bit.
And has that been an easy journey to get to, or do you kind of find a lot of roadblocks to kind of mix
no, because I see tech house as like big drums, big slamming drums, and big bass lines. And to me, that's like a perfect canvas to then put something on top of.
Okay.
So like I could put a horn sample on top of that and it should sound good. I could put a guitar sample on top of that and it should sound good. So to me, it's like I'm using like the functionality of tech house and bringing in the emotion and soul of disco and funk.
Huh. And then your preferred DAW is
Ableton. Yeah. And the only DAW I've ever used, I've never actually even seen FL or Logic in person. Like, I mean, just I just always heard about Ableton and knew that like, if and when I try this is what people use. And so that's the road I'm going to go down.
Okay. And you've only been using Ableton for what, 3 years?
Yeah.
Yeah. And how many releases have you had so far?
I've put out 10, 11 songs.
10, 11 songs.
Yeah, I did 7 songs in 2024.
2024.
5 originals and 2 official remixes.
But this is a mix between releases on labels and self-releases?
No self-releases.
Everything's been on labels.
Yeah.
And then San Diego-based labels?
Angry Dog, which is in San Diego. Top Shelf Disco, which is out of Long Beach. House Call, which is out of LA. PH7, which is out of Austin. Nassau, which is out of Canada. Like, I mean, small labels, but I'm trying to get my name out, you know. As much as I'd love to just keep releasing with one label, I'm trying to diversify and get new audiences.
I mean, did you ever get the chance to see any of your tracks like be played by other artists or
locally?
I mean,
locally. And I mean, one of the first times I ever heard one of my songs played was like such a confidence boost.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, some guy who I, just got to know and played my song at a bar club setting in San
Yeah.
Diego, and just like, okay, like I'm not crazy. This is good, like,
Yeah.
because you can definitely trick yourself into thinking something that's not very good is good.
How did that scenario go? Were you just like attending and then, oh, wait. I
Yeah,
know
so
that.
his name's Christian. He's the owner and starter of Angry Dog, and this is when I had just first signed to them. And so we were just like forming our relationship, and they were having an event, and I went, and he played it, and that was yeah.
But you didn't know he was going to play.
No, I had no idea.
Yeah.
No, and he's like, dude, this bass line's so good, and I was like, thank you, thank you.
Oh, man. It's just a great feeling to be like on the other side, seeing something being played, huh?
Yeah.
Just all the fruits of your labor.
Yes.
Just watching everyone around you dancing and enjoying, and
I
it's a
know.
great feeling.
It is a great feeling.
Oh, okay. And then I think you mentioned earlier you're married right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I hope so. Yeah, I'm still married. Love you, Britt. Yeah, my wife, Brittany, we've known each other for 7 years. We've been married for 3, and 100% supports me on this journey.
Yeah.
And honestly was the one who kind of like kicked me in the ass a little bit to like, try to like 100% give it a go, because I would say there was many years where we were together and we'd be at shows and I'd lean over and I'd be like, I'm pointing at the DJ. I'm like, I could do that. And she's like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever. And I think she got tired of hearing me say that. And she's like, you need to try, and and that was, just a couple years ago on a New Year's Eve. And, since then I've decided to go full on, and it's been extremely rewarding. So
Yeah. How often are we talking about you doing shows and stuff? Because you do have a full-time job. You know, you have a family obviously now that you're working on. Like work-life balance is already hard enough. So how often are you playing?
I'm
now?
probably playing a show once a month,
Okay.
which works for me.
Yeah.
I'm not really going out anymore. So the nights that I'm not out DJing, like I'm at home and going to bed at a reasonable hour. So I'm like, I've learned to be healthier and treat myself. I'm drinking way less.
Yeah.
I'm on the verge of just like basically giving it up, because it's just,
It's not worth it.
it's not worth it anymore. It's just not worth it. And I just want to pursue this dream of becoming an artist.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'm playing, I'd say about once a month. I'm working on my music every morning almost. I wake up about 5 a.m. and try to log about an hour and a half to 2 hours on something. And then I get up and go to work. And so I'm doing that.
Oh, you're doing this on like before work? You're mixing. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Honestly, it's someone recommended it to me, and it was hard at first, but after about a week, I realized that it's actually a great time to work on it. Like it's really quiet. My mind is calm. There's no distractions.
You're fresh from
I'm fresh.
Yeah.
I'll make a cup of tea. It's just like very therapeutic.
Yeah.
And so that's helped me kind of like get my chops and like start logging my 10,000 hours.
Yeah. Was it prior to you doing that where you kind of just like whenever you get thousands of hours?
Whenever I could get it in, it was super erratic, and it was actually like kind of causing some problems in my marriage, where dinner's ready and I'm up there and like I was like I can't shut it off. So I've never been great at like forming habits. I've more just been like a reactive person. But my wife has helped me. She's like, let's create a healthy routine around this. And so that's me working out or working on it in the mornings.
I think honestly, it's really good stuff that you
got to treat it like a job.
Yes, and some people, but the thing is, when some people hear that, they get like, oh, I don't want to do that job,
right?
But I think what you stated there is having a healthy routine around it.
Yeah,
because I think a lot of times, especially with young producers getting into it, or just anyone getting into it in the beginning, they tend to, I call it the brute force method.
Yeah,
where they would like 6 hours just nonstop, and really in reality, they're just making an 8-bar loop without any progress.
I've noticed that I put in the best work between like the first hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. After 2 hours, the more time I spend on it, like I'm not getting anywhere.
Yeah.
Like I very rarely sit down and write a whole song. Like for me personally, I just inch the project forward like 10% at a time. I'm like the tortoise, just so. And I've learned what works for me is I need like 5, 6, 7 projects going, and I'm just rotating between them, and I'm just like pushing each one forward just a little bit. And and like when I'm going to bed, I'm already thinking about what I'm going to work on in the morning. I'm like, okay, this morning I'm working on just the build up, and I'll set the loop parameter just there, and I'm just like fine tuning this build up until it's like right where I want it to be. Session's over, and then I don't want to hear that song for a week. Yeah, like I need to come back with fresh ears.
Yeah. So do you also feel like kind of waking up early in the morning? You're like, okay, I got work. I got to head out by like 7 or whatever time. Does that time constraint kind of also motivate you so you're not like slacking?
Yeah. No, it's having a time constraint helps because you can search through samples for hours, you know? But generally, the first or the second one you find is good and works and good enough to like, all right, let's keep moving. So I'm glad that I have that time constraint because it forces me to move on to the next whatever little problem I'm trying to solve.
Okay. And then what do you give any attention and love to maybe just practicing your DJing and stuff?
I generally, when I have a show, is then I shut off my producer brain, and then I'll go get a couple sessions in of mixing. Yeah. But I feel very proficient at DJing, and if I don't DJ for 6 months, I can get a couple days of practice, and I'm right back to where I want to be.
Okay.
So I do neglect DJing because I'm just so focused on trying to write music and give myself something to promote. But yeah, I probably should DJ more because it's a nice break from producing.
Oh, for sure.
And you actually get a good idea of what your song is like.
Oh yeah.
When you finally spin it and you hear it for what it is, you get a sobering view of like whatever you just wrote.
Yeah, because you have a direct reference. You're applying it to an actual real life scenario. Yes. And you'll see what's lacking. Yeah. So at home, do you just have a standard controller?
For DJing?
Yeah.
I have DJM 750. I have XDJs.
Oh, okay. Is it an all-in-one controller?
No, they're separate pieces. It's an XDJ 1000. It looks like a CDJ, but it's just like a slightly lesser version.
Yeah, but it gets the job done.
It gets the job done for sure.
Yeah.
And so I've had those for, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years now.
Yeah. And you just stick to the standard 2 decks, right? You're not one of those DJs with 4 different decks playing.
I haven't gotten there yet, but I mean, as I envision myself growing and playing bigger shows and just who I want to be as an artist, like I want to get into 3 deck and 4 deck mixing and just find creative ways to loop a sample on one deck and bring that in and out throughout times. So I do want to get there, but I got my hands full with 2 decks right now.
I think that's what's good. I think about your personality is like you're very self-aware of your limits and what your priorities are. So I think you just want to give them producing the number 1 slot in the DJing.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Because I think a lot of people, especially when it comes to people who have just so much going on in their life, it's kind of hard to move forward if you're juggling a lot of things.
Totally.
So I think it's a big
and if you're drinking and partying, then you're you're just distracted. So that's been a big thing for me is to just kind of lessen that.
Nice. And I'm assuming having that routine also is a big help, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So is it just on the weekdays or do you kind of leave Saturday and Sunday for leisure or do you also produce as well?
I like to produce on Saturday mornings. I feel like that's my favorite time because I don't have work and I can get like a proper maybe 3 or 4 hour session in. But Sundays, I don't know. I try to be mindful of how often I'm in there, because I have other duties.
No, definitely. And then you mentioned earlier you said you had a vision for yourself of where you want to get.
Yeah.
I know the end goal is the Coachella say you want to be the one in Sahara playing. And you said you have a very entrepreneurial mindset in my opinion. So I was like, do you set certain goals, like by in 2025, I want to get this much done, move myself forward, like to get to
I
that degree, or you kind
no, I don't. I just kind of know where I want in my head, and I just
yeah.
kind of keep pushing it forward. But yeah, I'm not. I probably should write them down just to like keep them as reference.
And then, I wanted to talk to you about now. I think much earlier we talked about it, about how your career in sales has been
Yeah.
a big like help in moving your career forward.
Yeah,
So can you give us just a little bit of insight on what you meant by that?
sure. I mean, my entire time outside of college, which is going on 15 years now, I've always been in a customer facing sales role. So I've gotten very comfortable talking to strangers and figuring out, whatever their needs and wants are. And it's just, I think it's a good skill for anyone in any part of life is to have good people skills.
Yeah.
And to just be able to talk to someone and befriend them and just be genuine. And so I think as that relates to music, I've just always felt comfortable promoting myself, advocating, ringing my bell, and trying to send whatever message that I'm coming up
Because it
with.
sounds like, at least starting off, most of it was just word of mouth. You go out there and talk to the manager. I was like,
Yeah.
I want to be here. Can you help me with it?
Yeah.
Yeah. But then there's this other animal that you sort of have to like focus on, is the whole social media world,
Yeah.
the marketing yourself.
Yeah. Well, I think that's where people might get caught up, is that if you want to be a DJ or be an artist, you need to promote yourself, and you need to market yourself, and you need to give yourself things to talk about. So obviously I'm trying to write as much music because it's easy to talk about the music that I'm working on, or it's easy to talk about the shows I'm working on. But if your project's not going where you want it to, you might not be knocking on enough doors. Like what people don't see is every day I'm DMing people and knocking on their virtual door, just saying, "Hey, I'm Sonny. I'm a DJ from San Diego. I make this type of music."
Yeah.
Something to that effect. Very often, you just have to constantly be trying to create opportunity for yourself. You can't be sitting and waiting, because there's way too many DJs out there now. You need to ring your bell.
Does it get discouraging sometimes, honestly? Like,
1000%. I ride the emotional roller coaster every day. Like just a couple days ago, I was feeling so down in the dumps that I've been kind of focused on my follower count lately and wondering why it's not higher, why I'm not getting as many followers. And it's just, it's easy to get caught in those sorts of mindsets. So it's an up and down thing, but someone said you got to count the wins and not the losses. So, if I step back, like I think about how I was able to play for Odd Mob, like that's such a huge win, but how easily you can forget about that because you're focusing on something that you might not need to.
Do you feel like as great of an experience that was playing for Odd Mob, did it almost like leave you wanting to get back to that so badly?
Yes.
And then you're like trying to get to that point again.
I got a taste of the major leagues. I got a taste of the major leagues, and I was like, this is the real deal.
Yeah.
And I need to get back here, and I want to get back here. And it's just lit my fire even more.
Yeah. So is there anything in the prospects that we can look forward to that you kind of have, excited about yet?
Yeah, definitely. So I've got music coming out at the end of this month, at the end of January. I've got music coming out at the end of March. I'm playing some shows in San Diego, and I'm just working on a lot of cool new ideas, music-wise. And slight chance I might be playing at Miami Music Week.
What?
So, yeah, we'll see.
Was that a similar situation that you...
That's with Angry Dog. They've been asked to host some parties at a hotel, and if it comes through, then I would be one of the artists that go out there.
Have you ever experienced like Miami? And
I went. I went last year. That was my first time, and it's it's a lot of partying. I thought it was going to be more networking, but if you actually want to network, you need to go to like the event that's at noon on a Tuesday, and people are, and then there's not that many people there. But if you expect to like be networking at John Summit at the factory or whatever.
Yeah.
It's called that's just a party. And it's a great party.
Yeah,
It's a great party. But, I kind of had it wrong in my head. I thought it was going to be like a business mixer or something, I just had it wrong in my head. But it was cool. It was fun. And yeah, I mean, I'd love to have the opportunity to play there and just,
I mean, yeah, who knows what happens within a year. I mean, I doubt, like, if you were to tell yourself a year ago you're going to be opening from Odd Mob, you'd be like, no way.
I'd be like, get the fuck out. Yeah. So it's, that's the mindset I try to keep is I try to keep some perspective. I try not to get too sucked into social media. I'm trying to go on Instagram as least as possible. I just go on, I make my posts, I put a couple things on my story, I do my thing, and then just keep living my life. Because it's everyone I follow they're people like me. They're artists trying to make their way. So it's easy to see someone playing a show and you're not, and you're comparing. There's just a lot. Your mind will just automatically compare yourself to whoever you're looking at.
Yeah, and that's where it gets really
and that's negative. You'll go in a negative spiral. And so I'm just trying my hardest to stay off of it because things are happening. It's just happening slower.
Yeah, but I think, is it happening slower or is this?
It's happening slower compared to what you see online.
Exactly.
What you see online is not an accurate representation of life.
Yes. Yes.
But when it's in front of your face the entire time, it is your
second video.
It is your life. In this moment, that's what you're seeing.
Yeah.
So it's social media.
It's crazy. It's a useful tool, but it's also very damaging if you take over.
It's unfortunate, but that's just where the game is right now, and you got to do it. My only advice to anyone out there, if you're struggling, get off of it. Make your post and don't look at it for the rest of the day.
Yeah. Honestly, that's how I'm funny. How you
easier said than done.
Yeah. 100%.
Easier said than
100%. Yeah. Cause I've been on that very similar mindset of doing this podcast. I got to post all these content.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, Sundays, I call them my Lord's Day because that's when I just crank out content. I post them, I schedule them.
Yeah.
And for the whole week, I just don't look at it.
Oh, nice. Yeah. See, I don't. So you schedule them beforehand and they post for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. I don't do that.
Trust me. It just makes it less, how to explain it? Less tempting to kind of scroll and see.
Oh, totally. I mean, because once you kind of break the seal on it, you're done. My best days and my most mentally clear days are the days that I'm on Instagram the least.
Yeah.
If you wake up and start scrolling, you're toast.
Yeah.
You're toast. So abstain.
So it sounds like, honestly, to me, like producing has kind of made you realize a lot of things about yourself too.
I think embarking on this journey has made me look inward and ask myself, what is it that I want to say?
Yes.
And I think that's I see myself on this journey to become the artist that I am putting out there. And it's me and all the things that have made me who I am.
Yeah. And producing and then making the conscious decision to cut back on drinking, to get myself on a routine and have a work-life balance, these are all things really because you had this passion to produce. So would you say that it kind of helped you improve your quality of life?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. I mean, my mid-20s was like a lot of people, just going out to shows and having a good time, and it was a lot of fun, but all good things need to come to an end. And this was my next chapter in my life. And it's been extremely healthy for me, but also I sometimes spiral, we talking about the negative aspects.
Yeah.
But overall, it's been a great decision for me to pursue this.
Yeah. Damn. Well, I mean, we're almost pretty much done here, but I did want to kind of just touch up on, you have a couple mixes coming out. Is there anything that you would like to just, tell the audience to look out for? Obviously, we'll have your socials on there.
I personally think that disco and funk and feel good music is coming back.
Yeah.
We've gone down this road of dark, aggressive banging tunes. Let's go to the afters, and afters are great. I love a good afters, and it's fun. But like, I'm ready for some music like in the sunshine.
It's so funny how you just like, it's like reading my mind, honestly, because like I always used to love going to like the techno clubs, the four in the
Everything
floor.
goes in cycles, and I think we're coming towards the end of this like dark, aggressive, black sunglasses, wearing all black.
Yeah.
Guys with like scarves over their heads and stuff. Like I'm trying to push towards like happy, good times, feel good.
Yeah, because like for me, I'm like, where's the day parties? Where's like where I can wear something like this or like what you're wearing, and just like be in the sun with a bunch of friends. And,
Yeah, sunglasses on.
Yeah,
100%.
Okay. I mean, a quick question though: have you ever looked? Obviously, there's LA, but have you ever like thought about like Long Beach as well? As like, there's so many opportunities out there too.
I have not. I mean, I know they do Disco Trip up there. Obviously that's like an Insomniac event, but no, I should. I'm signed to Top Shelf Disco. They're out of Long Beach, and that could be a good opportunity. There's just
so many hours in the day.
So many hours in the day, and a lot of things to do, and you're just constantly juggling. And my reaction is to always just keep working on music. I just want
and I always have your priorities straight.
But you can work on, for me personally, I can work on it too much. And it's good to have balance. And like, that's what I was saying, like, after so many hours in the studio, sometimes it's like a negative effect. So I'm learning to have that balance and know when to say, okay, Sonny, this is a good point to stop, shut it down. And
that sounds like a lot of self-control. And
it's tough, but I'm trying.
Yeah. Which I feel like most people don't have that level of discipline, so being aware of that already, I feel like you're already so far ahead of the game in terms of that aspect, because we're so caught up in death scrolling. We're so caught up on cheap dopamine is what I call it. It
is.
Totally. Delayed gratification is such a hard thing to come by, and something that I'm trying to work on. Yeah. But you're right. It makes you do the work that no one really talks about and no one really wants to do.
Yeah. It's not sexy.
It's not,
it's not sexy. So it's not fun to talk about, but it's just purely functional and good for you.
Because they never show you on those 60-second videos exactly like you just sitting there
scrolling through kicks or whatever, No, that's boring. that's bad entertainment.
Exactly. Well, then, honestly, thank you for coming on. It was such a fun conversation.
Yeah, thank you, man. I had a good time.
I'm definitely going to be bringing you back on for season 2, where we like definitely see what you've got done.
Love that.
And we'll just see how your progress is going, man.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sweet, bro. Thank you so much.
Of course.